it's clear we need to think about the buyer journey more holistically. And building trust with buyers requires capitalizing on those perfectly timed moments throughout their journey. And at the same time, alignment across sales, marketing, customer success is extremely important. So how do you do that, right? How do you adapt your internal processes to center around delivering customer value across their entire life cycle? Well, one function that helps you do that is revenue operations. And I couldn't think of a better person to guide us through this than Eddie Reynolds, founder and CEO of strategic RevOps consulting firm, Union Square Consulting. Welcome up, Eddie.
All right, those are some great presentations to follow. I need to get a clicker. So I'm Eddie Reynolds. I'm the founder and CEO of a strategic revenue operations consulting firm called Union Square Consulting. And what I wanted to talk to you about today, coming off of this discussion about the buyer journey, coming off the discussion about how the experience is as important as the product, and about how that experience is getting worse and worse every year, how we can make it better. And I want to share with you a playbook for how revenue operations can do this, to build a more efficient revenue engine, to deliver more customer value, and do it more profitably. So I want to start by just asking, what is it that we want as customers? When we think about the experience that we have with the vendors that we work with, when we come to an event like this, and we engage with other marketing content, we want to be educated on ways that we can do our jobs better and achieve the goals of our organization. When we engage with salespeople, as we're 70% of the way through that process, we want them to understand our business, who we are, what we do, how they can help us, and engage us as we evaluate that product or service to reach a decision on whether or not it can help our company. And then when we finally do sign that contract and we start working with customer success, we want them to help drive success of the platform or the product or service that we've invested into. But what are we getting today most of the time when we engage with our vendors? We go to see marketing content and it's gated. We're worried that as soon as we share our email address, we're going to get 100 emails from marketing. We're going to get dozens of calls from SDRs. We go through this sales assembly line where we're handed off from the SDR to the AE, to the SE, to the CSM, to the AM, constantly repeating ourselves, re-explaining who we are, what our company does, and what we're trying to achieve on the platform with these broken handoffs. And so how do we deliver more value to our customers when we have less budget? We don't have unlimited resources. How do we deliver a better customer experience and spend less money? I think this is the challenge that most companies are facing today, and this is the challenge that most revenue operations organizations are trying their best to solve. I think I skipped a slide. So let's first look at where we've been. We're coming off of the growth at all costs phase of the industry, where the focus was finding ways to grow in any and every way possible. It was expensive, it was unprofitable, it was unsustainable. And yet, while we were spending all this money, our customer experience got worse somehow. We built sales, marketing, and CS practices that were siloed, and they weren't repeatable, wasn't predictable for the business itself, and it wasn't predictable for our customers in terms of the experience they could expect. And now we're entering a new era, an era of revenue efficiency, where we start with a customer value and we find ways to deliver it profitably by building repeatable, predictable, scalable processes that unite and align sales, marketing, and customer success. So who does this? Obviously, this is RevOps. Like, we're looking at who has the time and expertise to take on this challenge. Leadership and frontline sales, marketing, and CS, they're busy trying to attract, retain, and grow customers. RevOps is the team that has the time to sit down and fix these processes one step at a time, and it's why RevOps has been the #1 most in-demand, high-growth job on LinkedIn. But yet, RevOps is oftentimes still not able to solve these problems. Why is that? Well, from what we've seen talking to so many RevOps professionals out in the market and the work that we do ourselves and the challenges that we face, RevOps is oftentimes still treated as systems admin. We're reacting to fire drills all day, every day. There's a flood of ad hoc requests coming in, and there's just never any time to do any strategic work, to actually think about the customer value that we want to deliver and build an engine to deliver that. Strategic RevOps is a different approach. It starts with strategic planning, focusing on the customer journey, on ways to deliver more valuable, more profitably, by prioritizing the work that's most important and being proactive to build the infrastructure to deliver a better customer experience. This is how we build efficient revenue engines and deliver that experience. But how do we do this? How do we break this enormous concept down? And this is what I want to go over in the rest of the presentation, is trying to share some very tangible examples. So we start by just thinking about the main 4 pillars of revenue. Now, we want to align sales, marketing, and customer success, but for the purpose of this presentation, I want to break it down a little bit. Obviously, we want to convert more inbound leads. We want to convert more outbound prospects, convert more of our qualified sales pipeline into actual revenue, and then retain and grow our customers. So if we think about the step-by-step process in each one of these pillars, we can break it down and find things that are not working well, find things that we can optimize so we can deliver more customer value step by step and do it more profitably, more repeatably, more scalably. So where do we start? It's not like we haven't thought about this before, right? We're all at this event trying to learn more ways to do this. There are tens of thousands of software products out on the market that claim they can help us do this. And we already have a list a mile long of things that we want to improve in our revenue engine. So where do we start, and how do we prioritize what things we do in revenue operations and as a revenue team overall? To help visualize this, my team has come up with the revenue efficiency pyramid to show an order of operation for how we prioritize these things. So over the years, we've met revenue team after revenue team that doesn't have the fundamentals in place. And one of the challenges of coming to an event like this is you see some amazing things. You come back to your office and you're really excited about some concepts, but as we've talked about, we've been talking about AI all day today. AI doesn't work if you don't have a strong foundation of reliable and accurate data underneath it. So what does that foundation look like? For us, the fundamentals come down to laying down the critical foundation for the team to execute the basics of the go-to-market motion. And I'm going to go into more details and examples of that. But if we think about our sales process, for example, what is the step-by-step process for our sales reps to go out and sell? And do we have the foundation, the strategy, the process, and the technology in place for them to go do that today? Once we have that foundation in place, how do we drive adoption on the team and get them to actually take the actions that are necessary for our go-to-market process? Once we have the team actually executing that process and we have reliable data, we can start to look to optimize that process. We can look at what's working and what's not, analyze it, and find more efficient ways to execute. And we run into so many organizations that are looking to implement advanced tools and they don't have these foundations in place yet. And so then we go into the top of the pyramid, the automation, the AI, the advanced revenue operations practices. And the things that oftentimes we see at events like this that we get really excited about, and we want to come back to the office and implement tomorrow, but we don't have the foundation in place in order to take advantage of those tools or those new processes. So to drive this home, I want to share 2 specific examples and get really tangible here. Let's start off with the sales process. For me, the sales process is always the first place that I want to look in a revenue organization to see if it's working well. Because I don't want to spend time, resources, and money filling the top of the funnel if we're losing deals right in the middle of the sales cycle. And we look at the base fundamentals. Are we selling to the right people? Do we have a clear understanding of our ICP and our buyer personas? Do we have a sales process mapped out, a methodology that we've decided on, and is that built into Salesforce or whatever CRM we're using so that on the opportunities themselves, we can actually see whether or not the sales process is being followed? As we build that out, do we actually have the team doing those things? Is the team actually following that sales process? And then when we look at the reports and dashboards, do we have a single set of reports and dashboards that our team is actually looking at every day? And does that reflect accurate information? So oftentimes we go into organizations and we see that different people have different reports, they don't match each other, and the data inside the report is not accurate because they're not following that sales process. I'm going to skip ahead here. And another way we could look at this is by saying, okay, like let's say, for example, we wanted to implement AI forecasting. we could ask, well, are we doing regular forecasting today? Do we have a process where on a regular basis we're going and doing a forecast and then we can rely on our data? When we look at those reports and dashboards for our pipeline, do we have accurate information or do we have a bunch of deals in our pipeline that shouldn't be there? More often than not, when we inspect pipelines, we see that we have maybe a 60-day sales cycle, for example, for closed won deals, and a majority of deals are 120 days or more old. Because there is no pipeline review process, because they don't have this built into the CRM, there's no sales process defined, or if there is, the team isn't using it every day. Let me go into another example here. And I'm going to be even more tangible. We started working with Techstars, one of our customers, about a year ago. And the CRO at Techstars was joining the organization. He was new, and he brought us in on day one. And he had previously been a sales leader at HubSpot. And so the concept of revenue operations and some of the things that I'm sharing today were not completely new to him. And he came in on day one thinking, we're not building enough pipeline. We don't have enough pipeline to hit our targets, and we need to build more pipeline as a sales team. And so we started at the fundamentals with him and asked him about their sales process and about their prospecting process. And he told us that they had a really firm grip on their ICP and their buyer personas, but he felt like they were casting too wide of a net. Their sales reps were not focused enough on the right accounts to build pipeline. And so we suggested we do a capacity plan. And we started by measuring how many accounts a rep could actually cover in a given period of time without skipping any steps by following their sales process. And we came to a specific number of accounts that we could assign to each rep. And then looking at their ICP and their buyer personas, we could assign a very tight territory for companies and contacts for them to go after so that they were going after the absolute best accounts and the best contacts in those accounts in their territory. Then we built that out and segmented those lists so that the reps could focus on one type of account and one type of persona at a time. And just stopping right there, just doing that alone, they were able to significantly increase their pipeline generation in the first 6 months that we worked with them, without even climbing further up the pyramid. But once you have that foundation in place, now we can start to build out reports and dashboards that everyone's looking at every day because we have the process in place to see reliable data in those reports and dashboards. We can build out cadences that are more specific, where we take one buyer persona in one type of company and make that a single cadence so that reps can focus on one specific type of customer and one specific use case at a time with more relevant messaging faster, becoming more efficient and more effective. From there, now we have reliable data and we can start to review metrics and actually make meaning of the data, which is unsurprising that we earlier saw that the sales metrics, that only 3% of sales leaders find them to be helpful. It's because so oftentimes we go into organizations and they don't have this foundation in place, so they don't trust their data. And then if we do have data that we actually trust, we can use it for data-driven coaching and sit down with each rep and show them what's working and what's not. And only then does it really make sense to go into the more advanced orders of operations, like maybe using AI to write better messaging faster when we already are targeting the right people and the right cadences with the right messaging. So this is a lot. Where do we start here? How do we actually turn this into an action plan? We do this with the revenue operations roadmap. And this helps us prioritize these operational improvements by aligning with our high-level company objectives, OKRs, if you will, or whatever planning methodology you use, as well as the top goals of the revenue team itself. We want to sit down and align with our executive and revenue leaders and set clear initiatives to prioritize our resources for what we're going to work on, which helps us step above this flood of inbound requests. This is an example revenue operations roadmap. Now, ignore all the detail here. You can get this in the QR code on the next slide if you'd like. But what I want to drive home here with this example is just that we have a single sheet of paper that summarizes everything that we want to work on as a revenue operations team over the coming quarter or more. On the left-hand side, we have our OKRs, our objectives and key results, which are basically just SMART goals. The things that we want to accomplish to build a better revenue engine and specific measurable results that we want to achieve around them. Things like optimizing our sales process. Things like building a scalable outbound program. On the right, we have the specific initiatives, some of the things that we just talked about, capacity plans, territory plans, et cetera, that RevOps is going to actually take down And then we have a way to prioritize this. So you could take a document like this and put this in front of revenue leadership and say, this is what we think the goals of the organization are. This is what we think we should do in terms of initiatives in revenue operations to actually help achieve those goals. What do you think? Are there things that we should take out of this? Are there things we should add to it? Would you want to reorder the priority in any way? And then we get alignment with leadership on this, and then we're able to go into biweekly sprint plans or whatever we use to figure out what we're doing every day and push back more on these ad hoc requests. Every time there's a fire drill or something new that comes in, we can say, okay, we can tackle this right now if we need to, but that means this thing on our roadmap might not get done. It might not get done in our sprint, it might not get done this quarter. Is that okay? And this puts leadership in a much better position to decide, how do we prioritize? I mean, sometimes there are fire drills, sometimes there are things that absolutely have to get done today, but if that's all we're doing, we never get the chance to build a better revenue engine to deliver a better customer experience and drive more revenue efficiency. Well, that's all I have to share today. If you guys want to go to this QR code, you can get 3 resources that I covered. You can get an article on our revenue efficiency pyramid that explains it in more detail and provides many more examples. You can also get a copy of the revenue operations roadmap that I shared with you that you can edit and use on your own. And if you're interested, you can schedule a one-on-one revenue efficiency workshop with our SVP of RevOps strategy to actually talk through this for half an hour, 2 hours, go through your go-to-market engine and talk about specific things that you can do, help identify some of these initiatives that I went over to improve revenue efficiency. Thank you guys very much for your time.